All right, if you're new to the show, if you don't mind, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. Today, we're going to dive into what it's like to be ghosted, mainly from the female point of view, because men don't talk about this stuff publicly.
After probably our second date, he was like, I've never felt this way about someone before, giving me the whole, I like you so much, like, I can really see this going somewhere. But unfortunately, I have been like trained to see that as a red flag and not believe him. So I'm like, this guy is for sure about to stop talking to me. Sure enough, a month goes by, he just ghosts, stops talking to me. We literally had plans. I kind of saw this coming, whatever. Went on with my life. A month later, I get a phone call in the middle of the night from him. And I'm like, the nerve of this guy to hit me up at like 1 a.m. after ghosting me for a month. Like, who do you think you are? Of course I didn't answer. He calls me again the next day and it's earlier. And so I answered. And he's like, I am so sorry. Like, I really need to explain what happened. I know I could have dealt with things better, but he's like apologizing. It was a really good, really mature apology. He's like, I meant everything that I said. I really like you. I feel like we really connected so fast. Again, saying all the things he said before. I'm like, okay, but like, what are we getting at here? I had a really great time. And the last time that I saw you, do you remember how we talked about the church and how I didn't regret not going on a mission when I was younger? I realized I do want to go on a mission. And I'm going and I'm leaving in 2 weeks. People usually go on their LDS mission when they're 18, fresh out of high school, and we're 23. And again, he had told me that he didn't want to go on one. I was happy about it. I'm really proud of him. We email each other every week. He's doing great. I'm really happy for him.
That's amazing. This guy goes out with her, and all of a sudden he's like, you know what? I need to go on a 2-year mission.
I'm just thinking randomly about my first boyfriend ever and how he literally ghosted me, stopped responding to any text calls, anything, and I tried calling him, texting him every day for a year. One day I just went up to him and like broke up with him, even though I'm pretty sure he thought we were already over. And the worst part is that he ghosted me, but we had English class together the whole time. So he never texted or called me back. But I would see him in English class literally every day.
So there's a quick question. Have you ever liked somebody so much that you'll literally reach out to them for a whole year, even though they don't reach back out to you at all? All right, let's see what this one has to say.
The exact same thing happened to me. And she's in the beginning stages of that. And I feel for her so badly. It's been like that happened at the very end of February for me. And I'm still struggling. Everyone wants to sit here and say that him not speaking to you is your closure. And that is utter bullshit. Because what you can't tell me is how to get over him. You sit here and say, that's my closure. Now, what am I supposed to do? How do I heal from that? That's what nobody can tell me. It's hang out with your friends. It's find a hobby. That's all you got for me? Like, give me something tangible.
Go for a
Don't
walk.
sit here and tell me to journal. I can only write so many times. And
Take a
more
walk.
importantly than that, it's harder to write as much as as fast as I'm thinking. My hand is tired. Please give me something else than that. And everyone's other favorite line is like, closure is bullshit, you don't actually need it. Then what am I supposed to do? Once again, because I just lost not only my partner, but one of my best friends. And I'm just supposed to compartmentalize and move on. And to the people who ghost, I would love to hear from you guys. How do you guys sit here and get over it? Just drink your life away? Like, I genuinely, I don't understand.
How much you want to bet if somebody came up and they were dating and she didn't feel exactly as high on them as she does this person, she would probably be ghosting somebody too. That's what makes all of us as humans so goofy. A lot of us are hypocritical. Now, I'm not saying she would ghost somebody, but if she broke up with someone that she didn't care for, she would ghost them.
So my boyfriend of 8 months, almost a year, and we've known each other for a year now, straight up ghosted me. We had a really loving relationship. It was really affectionate, really vulnerable. We told each other how much we loved each other every single day. We were best friends, like, especially before we started dating, we were friends. And he told me all the time, like, how much he wanted to marry me one day, how amazing I am, how I'm the most beautiful girl that he's ever seen. Okay, so I invite him on my family vacation. So we spend, like, almost 2 weeks in Hawaii together. All paid for, by the way. He didn't pay for any of it. So we get back from vacation together. By the way, he said it was the best vacation he's ever been on in his life and that he wants to, like, move to Hawaii and he loves it. And we spend, like, 3 days together since coming back to LA where I live. We have a really fun 3 days, good time. So I leave his house and we're texting. So he goes and applies for this job interview. I'm asking him how it's going and all this stuff. He's texting me, whatever. And then the rest of the night, he just, like, stops texting me. And I'm just like, okay, like, he's just with his friends or something, like, whatever. And then the next day rolls around. I still haven't heard anything. I'm like, what the fuck? Mind you, too, he texts me all the time. Like, that's the precedent that he set in the beginning of our relationship. We talk all the time. 2 more days go by. Nothing. Obviously, I'm texting him this whole time being like, hey, you good? I had to literally DM his brother to see if he was alive. His brother's like, oh, yeah, no, he's cool. Like, the last time we spoke, like, weeks ago, he said you guys were great and happy and this and that. So I'm like, okay, cool. After, like, my 4th text to him or something, he responds with, like, a long-ass paragraph. And he was like, oh, my God, you don't deserve any of this. I love you. Like, I've been going through things. So we're in the middle of this conversation, right? And then he just ghosts me again. Full-on ghost. His snap score is going up. Obviously, I'm checking. And I know he's, like, playing poker with his friends. And he, like, went to a basketball game today. So, yeah, I'm honestly at a loss because I literally never would have seen this coming from him.
Okay, so obviously he's moved on. It's either another girl or one of his bros, but either way, he no longer likes her. Maybe when you guys were in Hawaii, maybe you fart really loud while you're sleeping. Maybe you snore. Who knows? Either way, he probably fell in love with a Hawaiian girl. Nothing major. Moving on.
So I have been ghosted. Yes, the architect did ghost me. I'm not gonna let it get me down. I'm getting ready to go out to dinner with a girlfriend. We're gonna go out, have some drinks, remind myself that I am that girl. His loss. Let's talk about it. Last I updated you guys on was the 3rd date recap after we went bowling. Great date. I mean, I stand by everything I said in that recap video. And communication, I still felt like was a little sparse compared to how it used to be, but I was trying not to think too much about that. You guys, I always need to trust my instinct. My instinct is never wrong. I left for my road trip. It, like, went downhill from there. I didn't expect him to be, like, constantly messaging me. A, because he hadn't been doing that anyway the past week. B, like, he knew I was going to be with my friends. I expected him to at least ask me how the trip was going or if like I got there safe. Since I was driving, nada. It's not like he ghosted me then. He sent me like a few like really quick messages, kind of like the bare minimum kind of breadcrumbing messages, like how was your day with no emotion, and then not respond for like 7 hours. You know, I texted him and told him to have a good time at the holiday party, you know, the one he invited me to. Didn't hear back, and so basically I call him, doesn't answer. So I text him. I said, hey, I tried to call you and I hope that you had fun at your holiday party. Basically, I've been thinking about how I want something more consistent, and I've been pretty open and communicative with you about that. The past week or so, I feel like this has been hot and cold, and that does not work for me. I said, if I'm into someone, I don't like feeling confused. I like things to be pretty clear. I don't think you've been very clear lately. I said, totally fine. If you're not interested, just communicate that to me. As of right now, this isn't working for me as is. And I never heard back.
Okay, so this is what happened. Tell me if I'm wrong. He didn't really like that she went out of town with a bunch of friends on this trip, so to speak. And so when she called and left that voicemail, that was her way of saying, I'm with another guy, even though she probably wasn't with another guy. That's probably how he took it. And he said, whatever, we're never talking again.
So I met this girl on a dating app, and we were texting for like 2 weeks, texting, talking on the phone, whatever, right? So I go to visit my sister, and she lives in the same city as my sister. So I told her like, hey, listen, I'm gonna be in your city, whatever. She's like, oh, does that mean I'm gonna be able to see you? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, cool, let's set up a date. Now, mind you, I had learned like talking to her on the phone that she's a very indecisive person. So when I was asking her like where does she want to go for the date and all this stuff like that, she didn't know whatever. So I took the lead. I planned the date. So I picked out a restaurant, let her know what restaurant I wanted to go to, and just we set a time, and that was that. Now, mind y'all, we had never FaceTimed, and we only had like talked on the phone, and we texted, and we like sent some pictures to each other. I don't know why she never wanted to FaceTime me or whatever. But anyway, so the day for the date comes. I bought her flowers. Now, mind you, she is a stud, okay? She is a mask presenting woman. But the type of woman that I am, I don't care how mask presenting you are. Like, you're going to get pretty princess treatment over here. Anyway, so I bought her flowers. We met at the restaurant. Really, I ended up driving to the wrong restaurant because there's 3 of them in that city, and I drove to the wrong one. So when she realized that I was at the wrong one, she told me not to move and that she was going to drive to me. So she ended up coming to me, and then like at the time while I was waiting for her, I was looking over the menu at the restaurant, and I decided I didn't want to eat there no more because this restaurant didn't have the same menu as the original one that we had chosen. So when she got there, I told her like, hey, there's like this Mexican restaurant around the corner and I want to go because they got margarita flights. And she was like, okay, cool. So we ended up leaving that restaurant and walking around the corner to go to the other restaurant. But anyways, like while we're sitting there eating and stuff, she's like, oh, you're so pretty. Like, you look like your pictures. She was like, I'm just really surprised that you actually look like your pictures because I've been catfished before. And I just thought that was funny. But yeah, we had a really good time. We sat there, we ate, we talked, we laughed, we joked. Like, it was a really good date, y'all. Like, it was a good date. So after dinner was over, we walked back around the corner. She walks me to my car, and we end up standing at my car talking for like a whole nother hour, whatever. We were having a good time. So now the date's ended. I get home. I end up texting her. I'm like, hey, I made it to the house. It was really nice to meet you. I had a really good time. And she texts me back. She's like, yeah, I had a great time too, but I knew I was going to. And she was like, okay, good night. So the next day, we didn't really talk much because I was out with my sister with her 2 boys and my daughter. And we were just having like a little family fun day or whatever. And it was her mom's birthday, so she was out to brunch with her mom, so we didn't really like talk that much during the day. So 7 p.m. rolls around and she texts me and she's like, hey, can I see you? And I'm like, sure. Now me, I'm all giddy because I'm like, okay, so she wants to see me, so clearly the date really did go well, whatever. So she's asking me like, okay, choose something that's on your side of the town and we can go there. And I'm like, I don't really know too much over here, so you pick. So we end up on the phone and we're trying to figure out like where we're gonna go. We had decided that we didn't want to go eat because both of us had already eaten, so we just wanted to go somewhere for drinks. And then she was like, well, my mom is always out on this side of town and she kind of knows it a little bit better than me, so let me call her real quick. I'm gonna ask her where she think we should go and then I'll call you back. I'm like, okay, cool. So we get off the phone. I go change my shirt and I'm just waiting for her to call me back to let me know where to meet her. 45 minutes go by and I haven't heard anything from her. So I text her and I'm like, hey, are you good? And she didn't respond. Like, I literally didn't hear from her for the rest of the night, y'all. Like, she did not respond to that message. So the next morning, she texts me at like 11 in the morning. She's like, hey, I'm sorry. I drove back over to my mom's house and I ended up falling asleep over there.
Hap. She ended up a stud. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what lesbians like to call themselves nowadays, right? Especially if they're a little bit on the masculine side or whatever. She obviously was hitting on multiple girls at the same time, and she chose the other girl who didn't have the nose ring. Oh!
They will miss you and they will eventually come back around and try to message you in the most randomest moments. And that's because they feel your energy detaching from them. Do not attach back your energy and your good energy and your good vibrations with them when they are feeling and like they are fiending for your good energy and your good vibrations. Stay detached and let them stay over there fiending for your energy and your good vibrations.
Okay, so she's saying if you really want them back, you got to ignore them for a little while. You got to at least try to show them that you don't need them, because if you're constantly bugging them, it's going to give them that added strength they need to keep ghosting you. If you are a person that ghosts, shame on you.
For whatever reasons you might have, which you're justified to have them, you've chosen to stop communicating to someone that you were once interested in. You, in this situation, are probably ghosting them. You're not responding back. You're not really being upfront with the fact that you're not interested in talking to them anymore. You're just abruptly cutting off conversation. When you do those types of things and you don't provide any sort of direct closure to that short-lived situation, you're allowing an opportunity for that person to start digging in a little bit more to realize who you really are. Speaking from personal experience, and when I'm in these situations, I start digging into the social media. I start looking into who's following you, what kind of conversations are you having on these posts, who's liking your posts all the time. It lets me know who you are engaging with in near daily conversations. So if you're following and engaging with a bunch of accounts that are related to what you do for work, awesome. However, if you are clearly following a bunch of accounts that fit a certain demographic of women possibly who are more provocative or who are of a certain age bracket that's probably a little too young for you, I'm not really interested in continuing to even talk with you anymore either.
Could you imagine dating this girl and then all of a sudden she calls you back one day and she's like, hey, I did a deep dive on your ex. I did a deep dive on your Facebook and I saw your Walk Talk Vent channel, you piece of...
Your absence in this conversation allowed me to see you for who you really are. Why would I even want to possibly have to deal with someone who's really busy chasing young girls instead of pursuing adult relationships? It's just kind of weird. So be grateful if you are ghosted.
That sounds a little stalker-ish. How about this? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Boom!
We were planning on going to a wedding together, and then last minute he was like, you know what? I don't think I want you to go. And I was like, okay. Weird. By the way, his dad had come down from like another state to go to this wedding with us. I was planning literally to drive there. I had taken off work. I mean, the amount of effort I had to put in when he had asked me to go to the wedding with him in the first place was like a lot of effort. I had bought a dress for the wedding. It was a lot of preparation. So he calls me and tells me that he doesn't want me to go to the wedding with him. We get into a little bit of argument and I was like, okay, whatever. So you know what I decided to do? I decided to go on a camping trip by myself to this island called Padre Island here in Texas. It's not really even an island, but I packed my rooftop tent, my car, my beach cruiser, and I went to the beach by myself, and I was so sad while I was there, but I was trying so hard to be happy. He texted me while I was camping, and he was like, hey, I think I'm a little bit sad that you're not here. What are you doing this weekend? I was like, I'm camping by myself. I'm excited. And then he was like, oh, that should have been my trip with you. I can't believe you do these things when we weren't together, but you do them by yourself.
Yeah, that does sound suspect. I'm on his side. I think you're there with strange men, but you want to know something? He went to that wedding with a strange girl.
I was ghosted and it sucked. I matched with this guy on Hinge. We hit it off and we had great conversation. We started texting, lots of like shared interests. The conversation flowed well. He said many nice things that got me hooked. And basically I had to go home, so I didn't get to meet up with him. I went home and we continued talking, which got me more invested. Stupid. And then we made plans to meet up when I got back. I told my parents about him. Stupid. I told friends about him. And I just was in it. I was in it. I got back and he ghosted me. Being ghosted just sucks.
And it does suck. Sometimes it'll drive you nuts. If you're in one of those situations and you need some clarity, get your shoes on. I want you to go with me on a walk. I've got some more stories to tell you about people being ghosted. Come on, let's go. So this chick named Emma calls up a radio station, talks to the radio jockey, whatever the heck they're called, I forget. I haven't listened to the radio in a long time. I listen to YouTube videos everywhere I go now. Anyway, she calls up to the radio station. She describes this date she has with this guy named Matt. She says this date was wonderful. We had this incredible kiss, but he's kind of ghosted me and I'd really like to know why. So between her and the radio station guy, they end up conspiring to go ahead and give this guy a call. So they give this guy a call, and of course she's muted, so they can't hear her, right? But the radio disc jockey proceeds to go, "Hey Matt, did you recently go on a date and kind of ghost a girl?" And Matt goes, "No, not that I can recall. Maybe a long time ago, right?" And he goes, "You can't remember anything that just happened in the last handful of days?" And Matt goes, No, I don't. And then the radio disc jockey goes, "Matt, you don't recall meeting up with a girl named Emma and having a meal and, experiencing, a really nice time together and what have you?" And Matt goes, "Oh my God." And he kind of starts chuckling and he goes, "That's not how I would describe it at all." And he goes, "Well, tell us what happened." And he goes, "Okay, so me and Emma, we work as ushers in a theater. And we were both talking about how we were hoping that this production would get over so we could get the heck out of there. And she asked me, 'What are you doing when you get out of here?' And he said, 'I'm going to the bar across the street to meet up with some buddies.' And so at the end of the shift, they part their ways, they say goodbye, and he ends up going to the bar to hang out with his bros, right? Anyway, make a long story short, Emma, just shows up out of the blue 20 minutes later, according to Matt. And they proceed to drink and stuff. And the radio disc jockey goes, so it was not a date of any sort, right? And he goes, "No, I would not describe it as a date at all. I was there." And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, she just shows up. And she showed up, and it was funny how he described it. He's like, she just showed up and was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it was just so funny. And anyway, the radio disc jockey hasn't unmuted Emma, right? So she's hearing all of this. And so all of a sudden he goes, "Well, hold on, Emma's here and she wants to talk to you, Matt." And all of a sudden Matt's like silent. And Emma comes on and she's like, "What are you talking about, Matt? We had dinner, and then at the end of the night, we had an intimate kiss, and it was one of the most incredible kisses of my life," right? And she's just going on and on. And Matt's like, "We did not have dinner. I never invited you. You just showed up. She goes, "We had dinner." He goes, "We had chicken wings and French fries that they were sold at the bar." It was the funniest thing. And she goes, "Are you going to deny that we didn't have the most passionate, beautiful kiss, Matt?" And he's like, "It was just like, there was no groping involved." And he was basically just describing it as just a boring kiss, like nothing to it, no big deal. The disc jockey ends up saying, "Matt, if the radio station pays for it, are you open to seeing if there's anything to this with Emma? Are you willing to go on a second date?" And Matt goes, "No, I think I'm going to decline." And then Emma goes, "I think you're in denial of our obvious love." And it was just the craziest, most fun call that I've heard in a long time. And by the way, I grew up with radio disc jockeys doing this, right? Where they would call people and do prank calls, or they would do calls like this, right? Wondering why a person ghosted something or didn't show up or stole money or whatever the case might be. So I don't want you to think that I've never heard this stuff, because I have. But it was just funny because I haven't heard it in a long time. It was funny too because he goes, "Emma is the type of person that'll just ask you, 'What are you thinking?' over and over." He goes, "I order a beer from the bar and then I'm just in silence with Emma for 30 seconds. And Emma says, 'What are you thinking?' I look down at my shoe, it's untied. What are you thinking?" And it was so funny when he said that, because it's like,
sometimes there are women out there that expect the guy to carry the conversation in every single way. And then Emma's comeback was so funny because it was like, you know, when you really like a person, you want to know what they're thinking all the time. And it was just so funny. It was so funny where at the end you almost got to the point where you're like, is this an act? Is this staged? Because it was so real, yet so like it's got to be fake, right? Because you got to ask yourself, how come some people don't realize when they're kind of going a little too far with stuff? But I think that's what makes the world such a fun place. If these people didn't exist, there would be no comedy in the world. And by the way, sometimes we all play these different roles. We like somebody, maybe we think there's more to their flirting or their talking than there really is. And then you slowly realize, oh my goodness, maybe I was making more out of this than it really is. Does it happen with me? No, it hasn't happened with me since I was like 12 or 13, because as you get older, you realize when someone likes you, they have a way of letting you know. You know, they have a way of letting you know. There's a video going around YouTube, and it is the funniest yet cutest video that you'll ever see. But you gotta type in the search box, because I don't know the exact name of it, but the video I saw was on the Hodge twins, and they were really fun to watch it on because they were laughing and giggling in the background. But I don't know what the title is, but what you want to type in is barber flirts with lesbian or something along those lines. And let me tell you what happened, because it was just so funny. This barber is doing the hairstyle of a lesbian, and the lesbian girl is trying to get a fade on her hair, right? So she looks kind of like one of the young thugs, right? These gangster kids, right? So she's trying to look gangsta, like a bro, if you will. Anyway, while he's doing her hair, he's like massaging her face and he's lifting up her chin, and she's like, you don't have to be doing that. And then he's like, do you want me to do this from the front or you want me to do you from the back? And he's just saying all these funny ass comments. But at the same time, she's slowly but surely blushing and cracking a smile, you know? And he's like, you look cute. What are you doing later tonight? And she's like, none of your business, you know? And she's trying to play it off. And I'm telling you guys, if you look up that video, I promise it'll make you giggle. It's so funny. And there's nothing horrible about the video. It's not poking fun at the LGBTQ community or anything like that. It's just funny because a lot of times you see a lesbian woman and it's easy to kind of expect that she probably doesn't get hit on by men that much, right? If she's really playing the, you know, kind of male role, so to speak. But when the barber's flirting at her, you can almost see how life was back in the 80s and 90s. That's how guys used to flirt. If you guys remember, there was an art to it, right? You're flirting with someone, you want to make them laugh, you want to make them feel comfortable, right? Nowadays, it's swipe left or swipe right. Show people, your best pictures with the best angles, with all your muscles showing. Who cares that those were muscles from 8 years ago and now you're 50 pounds overweight, right? Who cares that back then you didn't have any facial hair and now you have nothing but hair growing on your face and you're a female, you know? But you got to see that video, guys. It was just great. All right, let's get to some of these comments. These comments, again, were about the Emma and Matt date that, according to Matt, wasn't much of a date. And according to Emma, it was like a, I can't believe it's not butter commercial with Fabio. S. Johnny Playful, 5859 says, would this story be the same if the genders were reversed? And that's kind of an interesting point, because I think if it was a guy saying, I feel like we're in love, why are you denying this? People would get freaked out. They would be thinking, oh my God, this guy is a big time stalker. And let's be honest, we would all freak out because sometimes guys take it a little overboard when they do like somebody, right? And with women, we always kind of look at it and say, oh, It's just a girl. She's not dangerous. But what was that one movie that we all grew up with? Fatal Attraction? I think it was called Fatal Attraction, where the girl is stalking the married man, and then before you know it, she's taking a bunny and boiling it up. Oh my God, that was a crazy movie. That was a crazy movie. Was it Fatal Attraction? God, with Glenn Close. I forget the name of the movie. I think it was Fatal Attraction. But anyway, it's a famous movie. God, a lot of those movies that we grew up with are famously good. I just feel like we had better music and we had better acting. And even our singers that were doing the songs, they were using their real voice, right? Nowadays, they have a lot of computers and programs that can kind of help make their voice sound its best at all times. But if you think about it, back in the day when we were growing up, Venters, people had to have legitimate talent. They had to be able to throw the Mac on to get a boyfriend or to get a girlfriend. They had to rely on themselves because they didn't have a big, choir waiting for them on a YouTube channel. God, I'm telling you, we were the last of the people that were normal, because these phones that we watch videos on all day, the internet, all these chats, chat forums and YouTube and TikTok, it's made us all nuts. So let's say when January 19th rolls around, let's say they actually get rid of TikTok. It might be a blessing in disguise. Wouldn't that be crazy if we all found out that the only reason China hasn't attacked us is because they were making a ton of money off of TikTok? And now that we're taking TikTok away, they're like, that's the last straw, you Yankees. Because they're all Dodger fans. Zerathos 1673 says, if Emma was a guy, he would be in jail before the radio show began. It's interesting, that comment is true. If there was a guy that said, hey, I went on a date with this girl, I want you to call her and I want you to find out what's going on, those are things that would make red flags pop up immediately. And the radio station, if they thought the guy was really, really crazy, they might actually have someone in the background calling the authorities, whether it be the local police or the FBI or whatever. But do you agree with that statement? If this wasn't a girl a little bit obsessed with a guy, but if it was reversed and it was the guy a little bit obsessed with the girl, I think we can all agree it might be handled completely differently. So if you ever find something really interesting, whether it be on TikTok, YouTube, or anything else, let me know. We all walk together. If there's something that you'd like to see a little bit of commentary on, I'll try my best to make it happen. Sometimes YouTubers and TikTokers are so big that it's really hard to do clips of their stuff without them complaining to YouTube about copyright. Ecolos 785 says, Matt is right. That wasn't a date. So that was the big debate within the show itself, guys. It was just a little 8-minute video. But basically it was Emma thinking that they went on the greatest date of their lives, and it was Matt thinking that it wasn't a date at all. He was just trying to be polite by letting her hang out with he and his friends. Guys, just for fun, let's break that down real quick. She believes it's a date because they were there together. They had a really nice kiss. They had a meal. And, it didn't end on a negative note. It ended on a positive note, that kiss, right? He believed that she kind of crashed his party with him and his buddies because she asked him what he was doing later, and he said, I'm going to the bar with my friends. She goes there. He sees it not as a meal. He sees it just as some chicken wings and some French fries, traditional bar food, right? And then he saw the kiss at the end of the date as no big deal because according to him, his buddies had already left. So he just gave her a little peck. It wasn't like groping or anything too overly X-rated or anything. So my question to you guys is, whose side are you on? Do you think Emma is correct and that it's a nice date and he's in denial? Or do you think our boy Matt is right and maybe Emma saw a little bit more out of something than it really was? So I'm just going to throw a wild card in there. 99% of the time, Matt is probably right. It probably wasn't that big of a deal to him, and she probably really liked him a little bit more than he liked her, so to speak, right? But there's always that 1% chance that he actually does like her, but maybe he's got a girlfriend, maybe he doesn't know who's calling him. You know, is it really a radio station? Is it one of his girlfriends calling? Whatever the case might be, he might not have been 100% honest. So if all of a sudden you knew Matt, he was one of your friends, you knew that Matt liked doing that to women where he leads them on, so to speak, then all of a sudden it looks like her side of the story holds up. But the way he was talking, and again, I'll share the video, if you guys end up watching it, I'm sure you'll agree with me that it sounds like Matt was being honest, and it sounds like Emma was probably being honest too, but she was probably looking at it through tainted glasses, you know? Take off the glasses and I forget the saying, the thing. So hey, when you guys were growing up, was the saying this, that, and the other? Or do you remember the saying being this, that, and the third? Because I noticed that I hear that saying this, that, and the third a lot. I don't remember hearing that saying when I was growing up. Now, I don't know if that's something that the cool kids said, and maybe I'm looking at it from the lame, boring, nerdy kid's point of view, right? But just so I know, let me know down in the comments, when you were growing up, did you remember the saying being this, that, and the other? Or this, that, and the third? Let me know what your thoughts are. And I know most of you are gonna say, it's both, Jesse, it's both. But can't we just have a little fun and pretend like it's either or, and it's a Mandela effect? Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, 5045 says, as a girl, I believe Matt. Emma is just embarrassing herself at this point. Run, bro, you in danger. Sorry, I think the problem is when you're a third person that has nothing to do with the two parties, I think it's real easy to give your honest opinion. But here's the question I have for you, Venters. If Sorry was Emma's friend, she would not answer publicly like this. Instead, she would say, I know, Emma, that you're right. That Matt, he's a creep. Oh my goodness, I can't believe he ghosted you like that. So you know what that means? Ladies, I hate to tell you this, but I've told it to you before. Your friends lie to you and they give you bad advice. If your friend has a nose ring, don't listen to her. She's crazy. And that's why we walk, right, Venters? Sometimes you gotta realize that your best plan is just to walk and live another day. What was the saying that Scarlett O'Hara said? There's always tomorrow. That's why they wanted there to be a part 2 of Gone with the Wind. But for whatever reason, the author of Gone with the Wind never wrote part 2. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, Jesse, there is a part 2, but I believe that part 2, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was written by somebody else. And I believe part 2 is just called Scarlett, about Scarlett O'Hara. I haven't read that book in a long time, but it was a fantastic book. And it's one of those books that when you're reading it, it is so thick, people look at you like, oh my God, that's gonna take you 1.5 years to read. But it's such a good book that, I don't know about you, I think I ended up reading it in like 2.5 or 3 weeks, pretty quickly. Now I know some of you are thinking, my God, Jesse, that's not quickly at all. You know, when you're reading a book with 1,300 pages or whatever that thing had, I also read The Stand. Stand had like 1,100 or 1,200 pages too. That one was really, I like The Stand. Not as much as, the Scarlett O'Hara Gone with the Wind. But if you've read Gone with the Wind too, let me know down below. If you've read The Stand, let me know if you liked it. Animalytical 8354 says, I haven't heard anything from you in a while, Matt. What are you thinking? I love comments like that. That shows he was listening to the story. Could you imagine if a person did that to you 10 times a night? That happens in life. If you know a person, whether it be a female or a male, that does that stuff, oh my God, they are so hard to have a conversation with. Because pretty soon you just anticipate them saying, "What are you thinking?" By the way, there's 2 ways to get over that. You can either learn how to have a conversation about a myriad of different subjects, which is good, right, ladies? Learn to talk about football, basketball, politics, the weather. Learn to talk about a handful of different topics so you can actually have a conversation with somebody. On the other hand, sometimes you talk too much, ladies. Sometimes you gotta learn to enjoy the silence. And if you're in a relationship, and I don't even care if you've been married for 20 years, you've gotta learn how to enjoy the silence. Every now and then, watch a movie together just to learn how to enjoy the silence. But don't be a jerk about it. Let me give you an example. You're watching a movie, you're 5 minutes into it, you're actually into the movie, and then your wife starts talking. Don't tell her, "Shut up, Helen," because you're gonna make it where she never wants to watch a movie with you. Instead, answer her question and then let her know that you really enjoy the movie. In other words, there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, right? And if you ever do go on a date with somebody and you don't care for them, let them know right up front by ditching out before the bill comes. No, don't do that. I bet some of you have done that. Have any of you guys ever ran out on a date before the bill came? Let me know. Be honest. Be honest. Maybe we can pray about that tonight. Ask Jesus, "Please forgive me for when I ran out on Bill and left him with that date where I drank all those expensive drinks." Women do some pretty mean things when they're young and pretty, and then all of a sudden they get old and kind of gnarly and kind of chubby, and before you know it, they don't have those powers anymore, ladies. Well, guess what? You guys haven't been 20 in about 20 or 30 years. You got to be careful. Listen, have a wonderful walk. Make today the day that you do some extra credit. We've been doing this New Year thing now for about 2.5 weeks. Let's really go into month number 2 by starting to do some extra credit. I'll see you tomorrow.